What's up, Drop Pod listeners? You can check out all new episodes of the Drop Podcast every Wednesday wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Follow and listen along.
This episode is brought to you by All County Exteriors. Discover the excellence of All County Exteriors, a third-generation leader in premier exterior home remodeling, is proudly celebrating over 40 years of success. While most remodeling companies last just 5 years, All County Exteriors has withstood the test of time, consistently developing top-quality roofing, siding, windows, and doors. Their expertise extends from small repairs to large additions, serving homeowners and builders alike. More than just a construction company, All County Exteriors is deeply committed to community service, proudly supporting organizations such as the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the American Cancer Society, Roofs for Troops, and Parents of Autistic Children. If you have planned to do any exterior remodeling, call the experts at All County Exteriors for a free, no-obligation estimate for your project. Just call 732-370-2780 or email them at info@allcountyonline.com. That's 732-370-2780 for All County Exteriors for all your remodeling needs. This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Kulat.
What's going on, Drop Pod people? How we doing this week? Mike and I got an exciting do I want to go third exciting? Yeah, I do. We have a really exciting guest coming on this week. Mike, we had a lot of fun with him. I think it was great. We had Chandler Withington come on. He is a licensed artist for the USGA, the PGA, and the R&A. You've probably seen his stuff coming around. What was it, 2021? Did that one blow up? The U.S. Open one, was that it? He drew all the logos for all the U.S. Opens. It's incredible work. But I know it went around like hot fire. Even before I recognized and put his name to his work, I had remembered seeing the artwork. But he's got that for the U.S. Open. He's got the Ryder Cup. He's got the PGAs. He mentioned being in work with the NHL and some Stanley Cup stuff. So he's got such a cool story and how he got to where he is now, doing this artwork for these golf courses. It's really exceptional work, and it was really cool to hear his story. A former pro at Hazeltine when the Ryder Cup was there. So he's kind of bounced around all over it. And again, we talk about like the path you take, and you don't know when a door closes, another window opens, and just the doors and windows he's been through in his life is really quite a tapestry. So really cool interview. So make sure you stick around for our interview with Chandler. It was really a good one. I know we say it all the time. It's just an exceptional one. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, born and bred here in New Jersey, and I know some people may say, well, how does a guy like that who is at Hazeltine in Minnesota end up on a Jersey podcast? But you'll hear in his story how he was born and bred here.
Yeah.
Worked here, caddied here, talked so many golf courses here in New Jersey, and then finding ways that, it all leads back to golfing in the Garden State. And somehow, some way that somebody has a connection here, and Chandler's just another example. So, I mean, to your point, Rye, go give his website a check, archive22.com. Some amazing things there.
Yeah, absolutely. Little check for this week. Today's Wednesday, the 30th. I'm getting all messed up now.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
31st?
31st, actually. Take that
31st.
back.
Yeah, sorry about that. 31st. And obviously we record before, the day we put it out, but or in the days before we put it out. So trying to figure out the day sometimes a little tough, but yeah, last day of January. So for those going strong on dry January, keep the fight going. I can't say the same. I had a reason to celebrate, so I had a cocktail. So I'm gonna. Someone told me about this, Mike. Someone told me to borrow days from to borrow days from February, and I don't like the idea of borrowing a day. That seems silly to me, but I will extend it a little bit. I'll hold off on drinking it a little bit in February, but it has been a bit good. So for those that are listening to this, party hard tomorrow. Thursday, take Friday off. You have my permission. So today's episode 69 straight episodes. We've been doing this, and it's been, again, as we get close. I don't know. It's just, I said it at 67. Episode 69 here just seems like we're getting, 70 is going to be next week. We're just, getting closer and closer, chipping away to getting to number 100, and it seems pretty crazy, Mike. It really does. We've put out the YouTube stuff, so go check us out. Mike and I our videos of this are on YouTube. We started putting, we've had the podcast up there, but that was just like with a blank sticker. But if you want to see what Mike and I are doing, you can always check us out on YouTube, or you get the full video of the podcast up there. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening, it's going to be the same thing. Just, the video version is over on YouTube. Yesterday, episode 7 of TPI Tuesday came out. Dr. Mike and I are working hard at that. So, make sure you go check that out. That's over on YouTube as well. Instagram's got a quick little, if you need to go there, it's got the link. But again, a YouTube vehicle. So go check it out. Episode 7 of TPI Tuesdays over there. And then this week, we skipped last week, but we do have a Ryan's Verse this Thursday. I'm taking on the 6th hole at Tidewater this week. Back from my trip over Christmas. So this is going to be the 6th hole. So I don't have really anything to tease too much this time, but certainly worth checking out. So make sure you keep an eye out for that tomorrow. Nothing.
Excited for that. No, excited for that.
I don't have as good a tease.
I'm envious because you got to play a little bit, and I think as the weather, I can't even say it's really changing because it's still terrible here in the Northeast. But like as I forecast things ahead, I want to get out there and swing the golf club a little bit.
Yeah,
and you get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I got to do it. It's now a month ago that these were pretty much recorded.
But you got to tickle your fancy a little bit. I'm still the golf clubs are still deep in the closet.
So for those that are new to following along or whatever, we put out my videos on Thursday. So I got a couple in the coffers. And then we're going to do a 3 with me at Tidewater, and that should kind of lead us into March. And where we kind of get rolling, and we should have some more stuff out there that we should be rolling with a little more. So again, stay tuned for those. We'll tell you as they're coming out. All right, Mike, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'd say this week's a lot more little things. We got some like quick hitters. Where do you want to start?
So let's start with the first thing.
Okay.
I got on here the
first
NJ,
things first. I'm the realist.
The NJ SGA schedule. I've had a lot of good conversations with their tournament director Brad Barden about what's coming up and signups and registration, because just like everything in life, everything kind of sneaks up on us, and before you know it, like bam, it's in your face. It's looking like that mid-February that they're going to open registration for not only the 4-ball, but also the mid-am. So if you are going to sign up for the 4-ball, you and your partner, you're going to have to make sure you have your partner's GIN number, but you're going to have to make sure you lock in a spot, because these things kind of get filled quicker than most people think. Like, I can wait on it. and then the date or the site that you're looking to play is now filled. So if you are playing in the 4-ball, make sure you and your partner are ready to rock and roll. You got the date, you got the course, you got each other's GIN numbers so that when you go to put all that on there, it's there. And then obviously for the mid-am, you're riding solo there. So you'll just have to make sure that you got, your qualifier picked out ahead of time, because you don't want to miss the spot where you want to play to get in the actual tournament. And not for nothing, but the championship sites for both those tournaments, the 4-ball being at Hollywood, the mid-am being at our place down here, Union League National, like what better 2 spots to kick off their championships in terms of locations than those 2?
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that you and Austin are running it back. We're going to have to find...
Is that breaking news?
Didn't you just say it? Or did I just break it?
You broke it.
I broke it.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Is it okay that I broke it?
Well, I guess we don't have a choice now.
I'm glad you guys decided to run it back.
Ryan's the guy you tell a secret to that, hey, don't tell anybody, but you still want that secret to get out. So you say, hey, listen, don't tell anybody, but eventually it's going to circulate to the masses.
Sorry, Mike. I'm going to break that. I'm glad you guys are running it back. Again, we had an iconic interview last year while you guys were doing it. And I know you and Austin are so close. And again, just it's nice when we go play, it's usually you carrying me. It's nice to take the load off your shoulders and you jump on Austin's back and let him play phenomenal golf. So that's good. I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that. Breaking.
You're welcome.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you want me to cut all of this?
No, listen, I think it's great. But I wasn't really I didn't know how I was going to say it or if I was going to tease it yet, but forget the tease. You just open the curtain. Here we are.
Yeah.
So Austin and I will run it back. We're still finalizing all the details about which venue that we'll have to go qualify for. It was unfortunate that, had we won that last match on, I guess in the semi-final or the quarterfinals, whatever it ends up being, we would have been exempt straight to the championship, because if you made it to the final 4, you didn't have to go through qualifying. So we kind of just missed out there. So, we'll have to go through the grind just like everybody else. But we're excited. We had a great time, and we'll run it back this year. So make sure that if you do have your partner, that you guys are all ready to rock and roll, because from my understanding, it looks like mid-February is going to be the sign up for that. So that was number 1 on my.
Hold on, Mike. Don't. Easy. I'm going to put out a little announcement as well.
Jesus, here we go.
Any plus handicap that's looking for a partner, you let me know. Right, I'm interested to play as well.
So in case you don't know, there are obviously like handicap limits to the tournament. You can't be a 25 and play with another 25 to get in. Okay, it's not feasible. It's not manageable. So the rule is for the 4-ball that a team total index cannot exceed 12.0. So to Ryan's point, he's a 10.9 index. He needs a 1.0 or lower to get into a qualifier. So if you
1.1, but who's counting?
Okay. Here we go. So if you are that person and you're looking for a partner, so is the big fella.
I could be persuaded. I can guarantee a couple things. We're going to have a terrific time, and we're probably not going to win. So there you go. Unless, you know what? Can we team up with?
Hey, listen. If you had a guy like Troy Vanucci, and Troy's ball could count for 18 holes,
yeah,
and you just got to chip in. Maybe you get lucky one time, but I mean, we've seen Troy. I don't know if we would even chip in.
I'll tell you what, he's short, but he's stocky. I'm going to jump on his shoulders. He's going to carry me, and he's going to do just fine with it.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen,
those are broad shoulders.
You might break him, and then your scores are going to start to count. But nonetheless,
Troy, you want to play? Question mark?
I'll
jump on with Troy.
But that's the type of But nonetheless, that schedule is going to start filling up. Registration's coming out, so make sure that you guys head over to njsga.org. Make sure you get your stuff ready to go.
And Mike, I did see that one of those, I think it was a qualifier, is at Howell Park this year, like a qualifier. And I know that Howell Park's been going through a rather big renovation, I want to say, not on like the whole, but they basically blew up the 12th green there. Anyone that's played it knows there's like a 3-foot circle that you could put the pin in. That seems to be a fair location. So I know that they blew up that green complex, and actually last time I played there, they had bulldozers like over on the side getting ready for like the next day they were starting. So it'd be kind of cool to see what that holds. I wonder if they did any other smaller work out there. I would think they did. Like if they're gonna, hey, we got the trucks out there, this is what else we want to fix. I wonder if they did. So that's just one specifically. It's a little closer to home for me that I know is obviously looking to showcase what they've done. So
yeah, one of the public links qualifiers is at Howell Park.
Okay.
So yeah, to your point. So yeah, but again, go take a look at their schedule. So that was number one on my hit list of items I need to talk about. Number two, I got to kind of tease this a little bit because I think as the podcast continues to grow and the word continues to get out there about, the type of people we are and all about our, purpose here with the podcast, we've been approached by different networks or community of podcasts to join them. And I think there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that it's not going to change anything about what you and I do. It's not going to change anything about how we sound. It is just going to expand our reach to find more people that want to listen, that want to interact, that want to talk golfing in the Garden State. So, keep an eye out for some things within the next 2 or 3 weeks about some special things happening here with the Drop Podcast and areas that you can find us, because just like anything, you're trying to evolve and take the next step. And this is just an unbelievable opportunity that we just could not pass up, that I'm excited for. It's a journey, getting in on the ground level of something and finding areas that we can join. That is a community of podcasts that are all about talking golf to reach a broader audience is kind of where we're heading. And it's exciting. It truly is.
Yeah, exciting is a great way to put it. Like when you and I started this, we were two schmoes not really knowing what we're doing, and now 69 episodes later, we're two schmoes that still don't know what we're doing, but it seems like some people like to listen. So it is cool to have this opportunity, and excited to see what the future holds for it.
Yeah. So just keep an eye out for that. My next housekeeping item is, listen, golf season sneaking up on us. Behind the scenes, again, we got some things brewing for the second edition of the Drop Podcast Polos. I'm not going to tease what they look like. I'm not going to tease how good they are. I'm not going to tease how much you're going to want to have the second edition. Because last year, they flew off the racks way quicker than I thought they were. And listen, were there some stumbling blocks in terms of sizes? Sure. But like anything, you learn, you evolve, and you make the second time around even better. And that's what I'm going to guarantee and promise moving forward. That when these things get showcased, you're going to want to make sure that you jump on them early and often, because the designs, the colors, the material are ones you are not going to want to miss. So yes, the second edition Drop Podcast Polos are getting worked on. And I know people have asked me, do you have any winter gear? Do you have any apparel, any merch for the winter? And quite frankly, we don't. We don't. There's no particular reason as to the why. But I will say this. The polos are going to be fire. Get ready.
Hot lava fire.
Yep. Get ready. Get ready. So those are two little things behind the scenes in terms of the network, the polos. Like, I know that sometimes the season can be a little dry in terms of golfing, but there is a business to this, and that's what's getting worked on behind the scenes to make this even bigger, to make it even better, to make it even more exciting. So I just can't wait for that stuff to begin.
Yeah, I think, Mike, to your point of like winter gear, it's not really something that we were, I don't want to say not
Anticipating.
prepared for it, but anticipating. Like, again, we're still fairly new. There's a lot of golf balls up in the air for us, and it's just not one that we decided to pick up for this winter. But again, to your point, like people have DM'd and asked, and it's obviously got to be something we got to be ready for next winter. But yeah, we're the polos are coming out for my bigger fellas, for my brethren. I'm advocating for same material, different cut. Again, the material is excellent. If we're going off last year's, like I really liked it, but everybody said it's like suctiony, right? And I know for me it didn't look, like and sausage and bratwurst taste great, but they're rolled up and they're not always the most appealing looking. So when they're in their casing, so I am advocating for you guys. We do have you out there. So again, stay tuned for more updates on the polos. But
it's in the works.
Our bigger fellas, we're in the works there. Yep.
And to your point, that is a detail that I've been working on behind the scenes to iron out to ensure that for the larger sizes that it is a little more comfortable. It's a little less fitting.
Like loose fitting. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is getting worked on. So listen.
That was one thing that like when we did them last year that we like everybody loved them. Even the people that didn't like them or I should say that like made comments that they were too tight, like the bigger guys, again, like my brethren, they liked the material. They liked everything about the polo, the logo, the design, it was silky, it was comfortable, it was all that stuff. It was just too tight. And that's something that like we don't want to have you buy something that you're not going to wear and not going to fully 100% enjoy. And that's something that for us that matters. And not just for me personally, because obviously I'm there with you, but for everybody that's buying something, we want you to love it. And that's great that you love the material, the design, the look, the feel. But if it's not something you're going to be comfortable in playing golf, we don't want to.
Yeah, we're not.
Frankly, we're not trying to push something on you that you're not going to love. So,
yep. So keep an eye out for that. I think we got to give a little shout out here to Chris Gotterup.
Yes.
Out there in California, playing a course that I know you speak very highly of, that you've been out there, that your putter head cover is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it comes up in conversation quite often. But Chris made his first cut of the 2024 season out there at Torrey Pines. And unfortunately, Max, did not make the cut this week. Ryan is 0 for 2 in terms of making the cut, but it's probably a matter of time before, he knocks down the door there. But, Chris is going to collect his first PGA Tour check of the 2024 season. And
yes,
hopefully it's a catalyst moving forward because, they got another great event next week with the AT&T out there at Pebble Beach. So, it's exciting times, from a New Jersey perspective to see our guys, first off, playing, getting on the PGA Tour is a huge accomplishment. And then not only are they playing, but they're making cuts. And now they get to the weekend, they're making some extra dough. And we all know that the money right now on the PGA Tour is absolutely insane. So kudos to them repping New Jersey and finding ways to just frankly get it done.
Yeah, I Mike, as you've said, I've said it 100 times on this podcast. I absolutely love. I got to play Torrey South, and it was a special place. It was literally indescribable. I mean, I played it at a time I wanted to as well. I played it a little more afternoon because it's on the cliffs. The Pacific's right there, so I finished my round. The sun's setting. I'm having a cocktail on the patio, and it's again it was just stunningly beautiful. And then you talk about how good the course is, and they got the Torrey Pines out there, and the architecture, the whole thing was just tremendous. I cannot speak highly enough about about how much I love that course. And if you know that as Mike said, my putter cover, I take my putter driver and woods covers. No, I don't have iron covers. Very seriously.
I will put this out there for a PSA. If Ryan had iron head covers, this podcast would never have begun.
So I try to pick and choose. You know, it's not like I get to go to awesome places all the time, but Torrey was one that I was like, this place deserves one of my covers, and so it's my putter cover. I absolutely love it. That place is magical, to say the least. So for Chris to make the cut there, Jersey guy, I was super happy for him. So I can't confirm or deny if I gave him some tips on the course, but
I'll take the latter, but nonetheless,
I did wish him good luck, and we DM'd quickly back and forth, but yeah, it was it's great. It's again, making it is great, but you look at, like we just talked about, what's the next thing. Like, he made the PGA Tour, awesome, good for him. Chris, like, legitimately couldn't be happier for you. Now the next thing is he's going to collect a check, and that's got to be like a really true pro golfer feeling, right? Like, you got your card, you get the physical, like we saw all that, right? But until you collect that first check, I'd imagine that's got to be something for it. That's got to be another step to it.
It's the first check of this season, because if you remember, in the past, before last season, he had played quite a few events on the PGA Tour through sponsors exemptions, and he did make a big time run at the John Deere.
Yeah,
he made a big time run out in Bermuda, I think, at that tournament as well. So, like, he's collected a check before, but I think in terms of having his card,
that's what I mean. Having that feeling has got to be it's got to be a little different.
Yeah, no doubt. Totally agree. So shout out to Chris. I had to make sure we got that in there. And I got one little tidbit to go on before I get your take on this one, because it's been the talk of golf Twitter the last, probably 24, 40 hours. But we did talk about Nick Dunlap last week, and we kind of hinted towards the idea it had to be a no-brainer for Nick Dunlap to go pro after what he did at the American Express. And I'm not going to say we called it, because I think it was clear as day. But Nick Dunlap does decide to forego his college experience. He's jumping on the PGA Tour. I knew there was some rumors circulating, like, does he jump to the LIV and go play over there, because his stock may not be higher, and it's a perfect kind of LIV type thing to take the young, hot, talked about item right now and bring them over there. But Nick has said he's going to play on the PGA Tour, so I'm sure he'll be out in Pebble Beach next week as well. So, we called it. Not really sure if it was a good call or an obvious one, but we made it.
Yeah. Again, nothing to add there. It was a no-brainer decision. The only thing that I thought, like I said last week, was the holdup of how loyal is he to, like, his teammates? Does he wait until the spring golf season ends and then enter it? That was the only thing.
Yeah, but nonetheless, he's off there. So here's my question for you today, because I feel like I live on my phone, and I'm constantly reading things, and I'm constantly checking things. Go ahead, make your comment. Go ahead.
You don't need to feel like that. You actually are.
Okay, so there you go. You got that jab in. It's good. Just knock back a little bit real quick. Now that I'm picking myself up off the ground here.
I can run you over again if you want. Just
breaking news right now. Anthony Kim is making a comeback. AK is coming back, and there wasn't a larger than life figure at the time than Anthony Kim. Whether it was the belt buckles, whether it was him with Tiger at a clinic, him talking about how Tiger hits his sandwich 118, and then Anthony Kim being like, well, I don't know. Some days I hit it 100, some days I hit 125. I just don't know until I go to the range that day. That dude was electric, I think, to say the least. And then, if we all know, he kind of disappeared, and he became like the Yeti. You just didn't know what Anthony Kim was doing. Is he alive? Is he not alive? What's going on with Anthony Kim? But he got injured. He ended up getting a workers' compensation injury settlement type thing worth about $10 million. Now, with that settlement, he's not allowed to come back on the tour and play unless he pays that back. And everybody kind of hinted towards the idea like Anthony Kim's done. But Anthony Kim resurfaces and he's in talks with the PGA Tour and Live Golf about returning to professional golf. He's 38 now, so he's in our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But I saw a video on Nuclear Golf just yesterday of a recent video of Anthony Kim swinging the golf club. It still looks pretty damn pure to me. What is your take on Anthony Kim returning to the game of golf?
Well, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, he's been doing like that whole injury settlement, whatever, like with the insurance, whatever it was, like that whole thing. He's been doing like clinics or like long drive things in Vegas. If I'm not mistaken, I remember there was like a couple years ago, and it's more than a couple because I feel like it was pre-COVID. They had like what's Anthony Kim doing, and he was like, I don't want to say teaching, but like he was doing like funky competitions, and like people would pay to watch him like hit a golf ball at like a target and hit the target, and there was like, I feel like that was something he was doing, but I mean, he's been an iconic figure for a long time. I mean, from not really. I mean, you say he's 38, born in 85. When I just looked it up, he doesn't have a birthday. Wikipedia, which I think we can all agree is a pretty reliable source for a lot of things, Wikipedia doesn't have his birthday on there. It just says 1985. So
further proves my point. He's the Yeti.
He's mysterious man. The white pants, the belt buckles, the mystery. Yeah, I think it's good for golf. I think a character like him is good for golf. It draws eyes. I think that's good. In what capacity? If he's in talks with the PGA Tour and with Live, I'm not exactly sure that's great for golf. Okay, he can't play on the PGA Tour because he has this settlement. Why didn't he go to Live when that first opened then?
He can't play, period. The insurance policy states he's not allowed to play professional golf.
Oh, okay.
So Liv has offered him a 1-year contract to pay for the settlement, along with paying him
along with joining and
whatever, like everybody. So he can't play professional golf unless this settlement is paid back. Okay. So somehow, some way, he would need to work out the holdups of this $10 million insurance policy.
What's the injury? Do you know what the injury is? Again, there's just so much mystery around this. Like, who agreed to this $10 million like insurance thing? Well, it just seems crazy to me.
He had Achilles surgery in 2012. That was kind of like expected to. He was supposed to like recover from that,
right?
And then from there, he ended up having, I don't know if it was like wrist problems or what ended up happening, but it was like a combination of things that kind of just like made him constantly start withdrawing from tournaments. So whatever the case was, I don't know really the fallout of terms of what actually was it. But nonetheless, listen, I would love to see that dude back out there.
Yeah.
I mean, think about him when he romped Sergio at the Ryder Cup 5 and 4. He was like at the top of the world.
Yeah.
He was at like the top of it was all Anthony Kim. Now, he didn't win a gazillion tournaments, but he was that fiery electric guy that we all love to root for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like a character.
Yeah.
That just is good for golf.
So, listen, I don't know what comes about, but clearly the Yeti is resurfacing. The belt buckle may be making a return. And it's hard to argue like this Live Golf PGA Tour thing because I think at the end of the day, somehow, some way, they're all just going to merge anyway. So it's kind of like, do you get your money and eventually just hope it just falls into place? But
which is what we think John Rahm did, right? That's what we...
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what your boy Turl Hatton's about to do, too, to go jump on his team. But
not my boy.
I think the idea that Anthony Kim is going to make a return, I'm super stoked. I loved him, his energy. He's like, he's like that fireball that just is like, I don't know. I feel like he's one of us.
Right.
I go to the range. Today I hit it 100. I hit it sometimes 125. I don't know. I just hit the damn thing how I feel. And
that sounds
so
like
good.
something I say. Like that's not
Right.
professional golf. Professional golfers have dialed in. They know what dimple they're hitting on the golf ball.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure if I'm hitting the ball or the ground first.
Right. And I think that's great that he just kind of can relate to us. So I don't know really what this 2024 season will entail. Clearly, he does have some exemptions as being a past champion. So he'll have some status on some lesser events. He's obviously not going to get into the signature events because he doesn't have those requirements per se. Yeah. But there's no doubt that some sponsor exemptions would be tossed his way because why not get Anthony Kim in your event?
Are you able to buy stock in belt buckles? Because that stock's about to rise rapidly.
Yeah, except we don't know what belt buckle specifically that brand he's wearing. That's what I'm saying.
The whole is that like gold where you can buy and sell gold? The whole thing.
Well, that's something we'll have to figure out. So, but nonetheless, listen, it's exciting things going on right now on the PGA Tour. Anthony Kim returning. Listen, it's an exciting time in golf. I know we've said it over and over again. The PGA Tour season's heating up. The golf season here in New Jersey is about to start unfolding with signups and the MGA events. It's listen, at the end of the day, I know it may be January 31st and it's the last day of January, but hey, listen, I know we're all itching to get out there and play. I just can't wait for that to actually begin.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, you got any more of these quick hitters here?
No, listen, that wraps it up for me. I know I had my little index card of sheet here that I wrote down some things, but that touches on them all.
Yeah.
And I think, again, to top off the episode, put the icing on the cake, Chandler Withington is a phenomenal listen. The stories he told Rye about the Ryder Cup, his idol about Davis Love, about being in the meetings.
Yeah.
In the meetings. And the Tiger Woods story that he shares. Dude.
Epic.
Yeah. And I'm not saying anymore because you just got to keep listening. Yep. Just keep listening.
It's going to come at you here. But when Mike says in the meetings, I hope you know, in the Ryder Cup meeting, he found something at Hazeltine and shares it with Davis Love. And he's like, hey, I think this is something that we can use at his home court. Like, they talk about home course advantage, like that the Europeans set up the Ryder Cup that suits them. And the U.S. does it here when they come. He's the one that did that at Hazeltine. He's the one that's like notices something. So that story, again, the whole thing, super, super awesome. I do want to give a shout out as well to his website one more time. Archive 22 is archive22.com, I guess I should say. Go check out his stuff. It's again, it's incredible that it's hand drawn stuff by him. So go check that out. But now we're going to send you to our interview with Chandler. Enjoy.
Comstock Yacht Sales has been the Jersey Shore's #1 boat dealer since 1973. Did you know that Comstock now has 2 on-water sales locations to better serve the boaters across New Jersey? Their full-service marina is located at 704 Princeton Avenue in Bricktown, and their all-new sales location can be found at Navesink Marina in Seabright. Comstock currently carries some of the best boat brands manufactured today. The team at Comstock is proud to be New Jersey dealers for Regulator Center Consoles, Grady White Boats, Tiara Yachts, Sea Pro, Four Winds, and MGM Yachts. If you're looking for a new or pre-owned boat or looking for help selling your current boat, Comstock Yacht Sales is the place to go. Go online to see their full new boat lineup or stop into one of their 2 locations today. They can be found at ComstockMarina.com. That's ComstockMarina.com. Or for immediate sales assistance, text them now at 732-604-1237. That's 732-604-1237. So today's guest is another one that I think the stories could be endless in terms of what he's able to share with us. He's a proud PGA member. He's a licensed artist for the USGA, the RNA. And like his Twitter bio says, he brings the history of golf to your wall in a hand-drawn way. Today's guest is Chandler Withington. Chandler, thank you so much for coming on today's show.
No, thank you guys. Great to be on with you.
Yeah, good to have you, Chandler.
Yeah, listen, like I said to you in the pre-show, like connecting with people on social media has been an unreal adventure for me. And talking to people, introducing myself to who we are and kind of what we do. Being able to cross paths with someone like you and the stories that you have, I think are going to be right up the audience's alley. Because I know people may say to me, like, well, Mike, what's the connection with Chandler and golfing in the Garden State? Um, but I think before I spoil that aspect, knowing that you grew up here in New Jersey, you caddied at a top 5 golf course as a kid, just like so many of all of us. Why don't you give the audience a little bit of background about you? Because I know not only are the roots here in New Jersey, but they far extend outside as well.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think, to start with New Jersey and where I'm from, and when people always ask you, like, where are you from? I'll always come back to saying I'm from Basking Ridge, New Jersey, right in the middle of the state. I grew up in a family where my dad worked in New York City for Pfizer for over 25 years. So we grew up in the shadow of the city, getting in the city and growing up as a New York sports fan. But if I had to kind of give you, like, where did this all start for me? And I didn't grow up in a golfing family, meaning, like, my dad didn't play golf. He wasn't the one who taught me how to play golf. I didn't have any friends that played golf as a kid who grew up in the mid to late 80s, early 90s. Golf was not anything that was on anybody's radar. I grew up playing Little League and started getting into hockey later as a kid. But I think, where it really started for me, Mike, was we went down to Hilton Head Island spring break of 1992, and we were staying on a house on Harbor Town the week of the MCI Heritage. PGA Tour, maybe I knew it was something, but it certainly wasn't anything I gave any thought to. But all my cousins were, the tour was going on in the backyard that week, and they're like, come on, let's go watch golf. Let's go watch golf. And I was like, you guys have fun. But eventually they got me to go out there, and we sat behind a par 5 tee and watched the guys hit drivers. And this was right in the early 90s when, persimmon was still around, but metal was starting to come into the game. And for, you guys remember the first time you saw professional golf, like it grabs you. And you watch a ball, fly, 3 football fields away. And it was like, what was that? And a younger player back then, young back then was late 20s, wasn't what it is today with Nick Dunlaps, et cetera. But a younger player came around and hit a persimmon driver out of sight. And I thought it was the coolest thing that I had ever seen. And he was young, so we kind of followed him around that week. And, sure enough, he went on to win the tournament. So immediately became my favorite player. And, the conversation driving back to New Jersey from that spring break was, I want to figure this out. I want to learn how to play. And, how do I get started? I don't know anybody who plays the game. But my education as a kid was I would get home and VCR that player whenever he was on TV. If you can remember the 3 letters VCR. I'm dating myself here.
No, I got it. I remember that vividly.
Yeah, but I would just kind of watch that player, rewind, and go out in the backyard and try to imitate what I was seeing on TV. So that's where it started for me.
Going back to that answer about golf, it is kind of unique because when you think about how people get into the game, it's always a father, a grandfather, a relative, someone that kind of drives them to the game. And knowing that, like, your experience with getting in the game was just unique in a sense, because we've heard the stories one way or another. But for you to fall in love with the game while watching it live at a PGA Tour stop at a beautiful spot, I think that just encompasses really what golf is. Once you get addicted to it, you become obsessed. And I think sounds like a little bit about your story as well, about how you got hooked on the game.
I think I was about 5 years before Tiger. When Tiger came along and took everyone and captivated everyone with the 97 Masters and everything he did after, we had kind of a saying in all the years I've been doing this, like, the golf ball doesn't know where you came from, how you got into the game, what inspired it. It just knows who's hitting it. If you learn how to square the club face up, the ball is going to go as straight as it does for everyone else. So, but those moments, I'm
I'm a big believer in moments. One of my favorite books is The Power of Moments. And all these different moments come along, whether it's, somebody introduced you to the game, or what inspired you or captivated you or caught you. For me, it was the 1992 MCI at Harbortown.
Who was the golfer?
Davis Love.
Yeah, another Sea Island, Georgia guy. You can't, listen, it's a great guy. And no offense, he dominated that tournament.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, I felt like as a kid growing up, he was always the one putting the red coat on all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
So listen, it's a great person to fall in love with the game because of.
Yeah, that tournament was his baby, but it was the golf swing. He made it look so easy and effortless, and he was still hitting a persimmon driver, which it sounded like a gunshot when it went off, and the ball went a mile. And again, he was young. He was Jordan Spieth back then, right? He was the young upstart, so he made golf look cool for me. I wanted to pay attention.
And then so as you've gotten older, and not to date you here, but you go through college and explain the background and the story about how you end up at Hazeltine, because I think when the audience or anybody hears Hazeltine, you got to think that the 2016 Ryder Cup is the first thing that pops into probably the majority of our minds, because we all know that the Ryder Cup is mainly that one golf event, maybe outside Sunday at Augusta, that we all are glued to the TV, regardless of where it is. But knowing that event was at your golf course, with you leading the way at that golf course, how does that happen?
Today, I try and ask myself that same question. How does a guy from Basking Ridge who didn't start playing golf at 14 end up in this position? I think there's two journeys that kind of go side to side here that we'll talk about both of them. But from the golf journey, I would say, I don't know if you guys can remember back to when you were in high school. I went to Ridge High School in Basking Ridge, and your guidance counselor, kind of sits you down, and we have to have that talk about who we're going to become and get serious about the next step. So the answer that I had to that question of, what are you going to be when you grow up, for years for me was that I wanted to be an architect. That was the goal and the dream for me. My dad kind of took me around to different stadiums as a kid. Of course, I got to grow up going to great places like Yankee Stadium and Madison Square Garden, but he took me to Fenway and Old Tiger Stadium and Wrigley and Comiskey Park and Candlestick. And, how does that stadium have stanchions that come out for a football game and go back for a baseball game? I was so captivated by all that that was what I wanted to be. And I remember telling my guidance counselor, "Rob, I'm going to be an architect." And, she kind of smiled and she goes, "That's great. What else do you like to do?" And it was her nice way of saying, that'd be great if you had the grades. I didn't.
Yeah.
I was a C+ student at best. So I thought that was her polite way of saying, just tell me more about yourself. And, this was 2 years after I found golf, and I was really starting to fall in love with it. And I said, well, I'm starting to like golf. And she goes, golf, is there a future or a career that you could have in golf? And I just started to learn about these PGM schools, professional golf management schools, that you could go to and study the business of golf. And the next thing I knew, she kind of bait and switched me, and I was like, I could go play golf and be a golf pro. And I never looked back. I just kind of shelved the architecture thing and went full bore towards golf. I think if you talk to enough people in the industry, and I've listened to your podcast, and you guys have, everyone eventually has, I was listening to the podcast with Dave Reisner. I was just talking about just randomly dropping his resume off at Ridgewood, and look what it's become now 25 years later. For me, I got a break. Canubra Country Club in Summit. I played there once in high school, and they have two nice golf courses that I just thought about, look, when I'm off the clock, I'll have two golf courses to play from. And I went in and put in my resume for an internship, and I met the golf professional. His name was Greg Lecker, and I didn't know much about Greg. I didn't know that Greg came from Oakmont Country Club in Pittsburgh. I didn't know that he worked for Bob Ford, who's really, such the godfather of golf professionals right now in the PGA. And I didn't know how this all worked, but I got a break, and I got an opportunity to do 3 internships at Canubra for Greg. And that came back to pay it off later for me, about 5 or 6 years later, when he sent me down to Seminole in the winters in West Palm Beach. And I got to spend some winters with Bob And another door opened for me to go to Marion Golf Club in Philadelphia as the lead assistant in 2007. And then you kind of get to that. It's like a triangle, like most industries. You're getting towards the top, and the opportunities are getting to be fewer, and the competition is getting to be harder to get these rare opportunities. And I'd interviewed for 3 years when I was at Marion for head jobs, and was getting really close to a lot of them. And I learned a lot in not getting those jobs for 3 years of interviewing. I learned how this all works and how to communicate who I am and what I do and how I can help. In learning, what was valuable to Hazeltine, and I was just able to get the stars to line up at Hazeltine at the end of 2012, and they hire you, and you're so thrilled to just be a head golf professional. I was going to be thrilled to be a head pro anywhere. If you knew the list of places that I interviewed, I wanted to lead. And now I'm ending up going halfway across the country, and the Ryder Cup is coming 4 years later. So that's a condensed version of how I got there. You're taking 15 years of experience and consolidating into like a 3-minute journey. But there's a timing to everything, I think, also in life. So that's a big part of it, though. Is I think I got there because of people who believed in me, invested their time in me, and then I got lucky with the timing of how things worked and which doors opened up at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, those golf courses are unreal. When you talk about when I was doing my research and checked out some of the listings and the bios, and I'm like, you're talking Seminole, okay? You're talking, I mean, even Cernubrook here in New Jersey, I think can be a little underrated at times. And they host a lot of big time USGA qualifiers. So it's on the radar. So it's not like it just doesn't maybe get talked about as other golf courses here in New Jersey. But then you're talking about Seminole, which is like the cream of the crop down there. Those views along the ocean are just absolutely stupid. Then you're coming back up here. Yeah. Then you're coming back up here to the Northeast with Marion. Nothing beats their pins, like the whole thing, everything about it. That's just so unique. And then you end up at Hazeltine. It's like, man, it is like you said, one unbelievable spot after another on this incredible journey. But then 2016 comes and the Ryder Cup shows up to Hazeltine.
Mike, I want to ask him before we get into the Ryder Cup there. When you interviewed for the job at Hazeltine, did you bring up the Ryder Cup? Like they chose they chose Hazeltine prior to you getting there, right? That's years out. Yeah. So how big of that and maybe you don't even remember, but how big of that was in your interview? Like, hey, we have this enormous international event coming. Are you able to handle it? Like, what was that like in that interview process in getting that job?
Yeah, Ryan, I think two things. One, they like the fact that I've been a part of preparing for championships at Marion. We had the U.S. Open coming the next year after I interviewed at Hazeltine. So having that experience in what Mike kind of referenced with Cernubrook, and other places that I've been, I'd worked for the Masters a little bit. I had a little bit of background in preparing for these things. So that helped. But to put the Ryder Cup in perspective, I remember one of the people on the search committee saying to me, he goes, look, the Ryder Cup's important, for not just what it means for us, but for a lot of reasons. But try to remember, that's 1 week out of, if you end up working here for 30 years, that's 1 week out of 30 years. The other weeks aside from that are all serving our membership and making the experience great for them. So just to put it in perspective, it's important, but how we serve the members here every day is what our focal point is.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So now going into the Ryder Cup.
Yeah,
Mike.
I mean, because I think this is, and I'm sure their stories could be endless in terms of what that whole experience is like. And then I'm sure, because the follow-up question people I'm sure would ask me that I'm going to ask you is you're at Hazeltine, the Ryder Cup comes, and then you move on from that. Wow, that's crazy. But let's go first step first. So the Ryder Cup comes to your golf course. You've been there now for a few years, you're established, but now these cream of the crop, biggest event in golf comes to your place. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
If you go back to when I was interviewing for Hazeltine, it was in the fall of 2012. I actually did my first interview in early September 2012. Got invited back for a second interview in late September. And then the Ryder Cup was played at Medina. And this was a team that was captained by my childhood hero, Davis Love. And we know how that one ended. 10-6 lead on Sunday. They lose. Not knowing if I was even going to be at Hazeltine, that one just sucked for me personally. Then I get there. The next home one's going to be there. So we go to Scotland in 2014. This was the Ryder Cup where Tom Watson was the captain. Again, didn't go very well in a different way. And we're sitting in front of the stage in Scotland in 14. I'm wondering, like, what kind of team is going to show up on our doorstep here in 2 years? Go a few months later, February 15, I'm sitting in my office, snowing outside like it always is here. Everyone had kind of gone home. I was sitting in my office working on something, and I got a text from the late Tim Rosafort, who I knew from West Palm Beach. And Rosie texted me and said, "Look, I remember you from your time down here. And I remember your story. You need to know they're going to name Davis Love as captain on Monday." And I mean, Mike, I sat and stared at that text for 15 minutes. And it's a mix of excitement. We're going to get a second chance to get him, through this one. Mix of fear. What if this doesn't go well? What if we lose? I mean, he'll probably never talk to me again. And I know your listeners won't see it, but it's a picture of when I caddied for him at Seminole in 06. And
wow,
oh, cool.
I had the same fear and excitement. I know a lot of people who gotten to meet their heroes. And it didn't turn out great. We hold them on such a pedestal, and then we finally get to meet them. And if it doesn't go well, it crushes your soul, right? When I met Davis, like, he could not have been nicer to me, more encouraging of the path that I was on as becoming a PGA professional, like his dad. So I had a relationship with him coming into 2015 when he showed up, and I think Mike, my mindset shifted when they named Davis as captain. As, look, obviously I'm going to care about the success of this event, but now it just went up about 10 levels. So my mindset shifted into how can I help, and what kind of questions is he going to ask me? And when you get to host a Ryder Cup and you're the home team, you get to set up the golf course however you want to. So I really wanted to be prepared, for the questions he was going to ask about the golf course. But my family had just given me the last 20 years of DVDs on the Ryder Cup. And so for about the next 3 months, as we finished out winter in 2015, I kept watching the old Ryder Cups, and specifically the losses. Why do we keep losing this? Is it just as simple as that they're better? Can we learn anything from, especially how they play at home? And some things started jumping out. I started catching some trends, and then I started putting numbers to the trends. And I had my homework ready, and I talked to enough people in my circles to be like, look, if Davis starts talking about some of this stuff, should I bring this up? And they're like, if you have something that you think can help the team and you don't speak up, you'll regret it. So thankfully I had a relationship with him to where I felt like I could. But yeah, when he showed up in the summer of 15 and we started playing the golf course together, he started going near the things that I felt like he should know. And to give him a lot of credit, when I started throwing some of the numbers at him doing this a second time and having lost, he was willing to think about things differently, and he was willing to accept other perspectives and how people viewed things, and he used them, in his strategy. But Mike, to your point, I mean, I've done presentations on the Ryder Cup for 3 hours, and I could talk about it for 10. You kind of hinted at, how do you move on from it? You don't really have to, because it went our way. Everything that could have gone our way, my experience was a 15 out of 10. And we just get to kind of live in that. But you also have to come back to back to what we just talked about is, okay, Ryder Cup's over, back to serving the membership. And that's what I continued to do until the day I left.
Yeah,
That's
that team too. I know Tiger wasn't on that team specifically, but still the names on there. You're talking Phil, you're talking Ricky, you're talking still, Jordan Spieth, Dustin. You still Brooks. You're talking big name guys, nonetheless, that are coming into your place. Like, I can only imagine being a little kid in a candy store, seeing these guys come in there, and then you're talking about like your hero being Davis Love. Mine's Tiger, and I rant and rave about Tiger nonstop. Like, I can only imagine if my experience like yours, it would be a 15 out of 10. So, and on top of that, the USA dominates. But the Ryder Cup ends. Obviously, you now, like you said, you move on to like, now I'm going back to my day-to-day job, really, which is serving the membership, because that's really what I was hired to do. But then art gets involved here, okay? And me being the golf nerd that I am, and I start seeing things, and there are times where I look at people like you and I'm like, I can't believe I'm actually DMing with these guys and they actually respond, because I never thought that. I look at you guys and you're on a whole other level than someone like Ryan or myself. But at the end of the day, you are just a normal human being that loves the game of golf, that wants to talk the game of golf the same way we are. How does art get involved here?
Well, let me do a few things in how I answer that. One, because you're a Tiger fan, people ask me all the time, if you could share one story from the Ryder Cup, what would you share? And it's a story that involves Tiger. We have to remember that he was an assistant captain here in 16.
Yeah. I meant like actually
Yeah.
teeing it up. Yeah, but yes,
Sure.
to your point, you're right.
Sure, he was really involved. This was a time where he had the back fusion surgery, so he wasn't playing golf. This was at a time when his game had almost hit ground zero. He needed to be around people. When Davis made him an assistant captain, he was so involved with the course setup, the course, to the pairings, but he was great with the guys. So I'm going to talk about the artwork stuff here in a second, but where it really starts and why I share this story is we have to have proper perspective about what's most important, and why things matter. So fast forward to the end of Ryder Cup, USA wins. They go to the stage, they do the closing ceremony, closing press conference, and we're back in the locker room. And I had access to the team because of my relationship with Davis. If it was anybody else, I'm probably on the outside looking in. But the players are cleaning out their lockers, and we're getting ready to go back to the hotel in Eden Prairie which is really where the real party is, going back to the hotel and the team room in the hotel. And as the guys are packing up their locker, Tiger says, "Hey guys, come here. I want to talk to everyone for a second." Guys kind of gather around. I'm kind of standing behind Tiger, and he says, "Hey, tonight when we go back to the hotel, let's really stay up late and enjoy this one." And I kind of watched. Phil was in the forefront, Jordan. And they're all kind of like, you gathered us around to tell us that? And they're all kind of like laughing, and Tiger's not laughing. They finally stop laughing, and Tiger says, guys, the reason I say that is, you go back to 1999 at Brookline, with the comeback win, we go back to the hotel, we have dinner, we have, drinks, party, but, it's like this week takes it out of you. So about 10 o'clock, I went back up to my room and I got in bed. I just kind of exited stage left and let you guys keep going. About an hour later, somebody's pounding on my door, and every Ryder Cup, it's always players only on the same floor, so it could only be one of his teammates. And for 15 minutes, whoever it is not going away. So I finally get out of bed, and I answer the door, and it's Payne Stewart. And Payne's got this big smile on his face. He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Dude, I've got nothing left. I'm already in bed." He goes, "Yeah, so what? None of us do. Come on, get back downstairs." He goes, "No, you guys go ahead without me. I'm good." He goes, "Well, I'm not leaving without you." Tiger says, "Payne, what's the big deal?" Payne Stewart says, "Tiger, the big deal is you never know if you ever get this moment again, so you make it last as long as you can." Tiger's mindset in 99, he goes, "Payne, we're going to do this every 2 years." Payne Stewart says, "You don't know that. Get downstairs." Tiger said, "I'm so glad that Payne came back to get me." And I went downstairs and stayed up late, and we'll always remember that night. And you know what? Payne Stewart was right. That was the only winning team I ever played on, and we lost him 3 weeks later. And I got to watch.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I got goosebumps. Oh my God.
I got to watch the facial expression guys change. Phil Mickelson was the first guy to walk up and be like, "Thanks, Tiger." Like it was a perspective moment. You can even watch I love Dustin Johnson. He's not the sharpest pencil in the box, but Dustin had that like, "Payne Stewart died? Are you kidding me?"
When did that happen?
Yeah.
That's great. We landed on the moon.
But the guys got the message, and I think you were looking at where Tiger was in his life, having gone from the top to the bottom. He understood what was important, and the guys got the message. I would tell you, I left the hotel at like 2 a.m. that morning, and they were all still down there. So I think the perspective of that, Mike, and how that maybe goes into what I'm doing now with artwork and where this came from. To try and tell the story this way. 2018, my wife Maureen and I are having our third kid. I mean, technically she's having it. I'm just kind of there supporting her. But we have our third kid, and everything goes smooth. We had a little bit of a hiccup with our middle daughter. Everything's fine, but our third, everything goes smooth. We're driving home from the hospital, and my wife kind of says to me, my chest feels kind of tight, and just something feels off here. And I'm thinking it's just overexertion of, delivery and getting back on your feet. And we get home, she's like, something's off. I'm gonna call my doctor. And they said, why don't you just go down to the local ER, they'll run some tests, and you'll have peace of mind, and you'll go home. So we go to the local ER, they run some tests, some blood work, things like that, take some scans, and they found a blood clot in her lungs, which is known as a pulmonary embolism. And I'd never heard those two words before in my life. I'm like, is this bad? They're like, oh yeah, it's ambulance time. So, I've got the 3-day-old in the car seat. We thought we were just going in for some tests and we'll go home. And I've got to take the 3-day-old, and we're going downtown to the hospital. And, there's a moment, I talk about moments a lot, where I'm driving on the highway and, you hear an ambulance come up behind you, and it splits the highway, and, your whole world goes driving past you. And, I'm looking at a 3-day-old in the back, wondering if I'm doing this alone. Thankfully, everything's fine. They caught it when they did. She's still with us, and we got to keep moving forward. There's a video that I watched in the hospital. This was 3 weeks after the Ryder Cup in 2018. They surfaced a video from Team Europe in 2018. Thomas Bjorn had a motivational video to show his team, and it's 3 past players talking to the team. It's Brian Huguet, who played for Great Britain back in the 60s, Sam Torrance, and Jose Maria Olazabal. And at the end, Brian Huguet talked about, he goes, don't leave with any regrets. Come Sunday, make sure you left it all out there. And I was already starting to look at my life as, being a golf professional is one of the great honors that I've ever had. And Mike, you just mentioned a few minutes ago about, am I really talking to these people? Look, we're all brought together by this game. But what I loved most about being a golf professional is I get to meet so many people like you on a daily basis, and I was so curious about other people, and where are you from, and tell me about you, and how did you get into the game? I'm having to answer your questions, but I'm just as curious about all of you, and where have you been, and where are you going? So 2018, that shook us up, and my wife, kind of asked, she goes, usually you're traveling around with members this time of year and going to warm places and playing golf, can you just kind of stay close to home? Because even though they put her on blood thinners, we didn't know if she was going to wake up tomorrow. That was just the reality. And it probably took her close to a year to accept that, like, if I'm on this medication, that can't happen again. So in the fall of 2018, staying home in Minnesota winters, and they're long and they're dark and not much to do, and I'm not much of a TV guy, I got the drawing board out, and I just started, I was drawing the course map for Marion, and I was doing it for me. I was just, let's see if I can recreate it. And then I had this white space, because the golf course is kind of like this L. And I had this white space, and I started doodling the trophies and all the championship history they've had there. I got like halfway through it, and I sent a picture of it to the pro at Pebble Beach. His name is John Salwin. He was a member at Marion. And I said, John, what do you think of what I'm doing here? Can you even recognize what this is? And he's like, yeah, that's cool. We've got the U.S. Open next year. Why don't you draw something for me? So I kind of went out and got a better drawing board and better pencils and better stuff. And I came home. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can do this better than what I'm doing now. And did this piece for John. And, at the bottom, it had the old logos from the Opens at Pebble, like, from 72 and 82 and 92.
And the winners and what they shot. And
right.
I saw the whole thing and how many under they were. I listened. I said, Tiger's on there.
Yep.
I saw it. Yeah, I heard out about that stuff. I saw that thing.
Yeah. So, I got done with that, and there was still some winter left. And I had become friendly with Tom Coyne, who's an author in Philadelphia, who kind of goes on these journeys around the globe. And in 2019, he was going to do this trip across America and really discover what golf looks like in America. And I told Tom, I said, look, I've had this vision for something that I want to draw with the U.S. Open. When you find yourself at Hazeltine, these places in Marion, I'm talking about the history of golf all the time. And I constantly found myself being like, well, that happened in 1962, when Jack won here, and over here. And I wanted to have a reference on my wall instead of pulling it up on Wikipedia. So drawing the logos was fun for me. It was time consuming, paying attention to the detail. So I just kind of drew the history of the U.S. Open with all the logos of the clubs that had hosted it, all the scores of the players that had won it. And again, I was doing it for me. But Tom Coyne loved it. He took some copies with him as he went across the country in 2019. He was going to play all the U.S. Open courses, and he started giving it away. And I think when we started getting interest from people being like, this is cool, where do I buy it? I'm like, I'm really glad you like it. I can send you one, but I can't sell this. I don't know how that works, but I was still the pro at Hazeltine. It was just a hobby. So I think long-winded answer to kind of tell you is like, I think going back to the Tiger story, it's my perspective on like what was most important in life was shifting from that moment. I'm in 2018 with my wife and her health scare and picking back up the pencil again, not with any plan to become an artist, but that's just what kind of happened. Those two worlds just kind of intersected at that time.
As you said before, it's just having the right opportunity and having like this path that you're on that you don't even know you're on. You know, you go back to like all the interviews you did while at Marion that you didn't get to get you to Hazeltine, to get you to that point, to be up in Minnesota those cold winters, to get you. It's just a path that it's crazy to get on there. And I will say, I know Mike said he saw it. They're amazing. When we talked about having you on, and I first Googled it and looked at the images, I thought on the image search, I thought they were pictures, like computer done pictures, but they're really intricate. You do great work there.
You know what I love about them is just being like the golf nerd that I am, and obviously we all love the majors when they come around. That it's not just geared towards like the United States Open. Like yes, you have one that has all those logos, but then as I've continued to just like look and look around and just dig and dig, you got the Masters, you got the Walker Cup, you got the British Open, and I know Ryan's a history nerd too. It's like just being able to go back and like, because at times people bring up this major or that major, like that artwork is just so unique and so rare that I can see it being a hot commodity. If I have a room in my house that I want to hang some golf memorabilia up, like what better way to do it than something that's cool like that? Because the logos are sweet. I think the logos are really cool.
They really are. Who doesn't love a good golf logo?
No, I think that's what kind of happened accidentally, Mike, is I was drawing it because I want to talk about the history, but inevitably what happened, because I had him up in my office at Hazeltine, was so many people walk in my office and they come from all over the place, and it allowed people, if you were to walk in my office, and we got connected on this because Ryan commented on a post I made about Baltusrol, and I was like, well, where's Ryan from? Where's Mike from? Like, look, you guys are, you're from New Jersey, so we immediately have a conversation starter. Logos allow people to have the opportunity to do that. When I see people at events and, if I see you wearing a New York Rangers logo, I'm probably going to say something to you, because I'm a Rangers fan. You might be a Devils fan or something else, right? But it's that unspoken way of saying, like, we're all part of the same tribe. And when you have all these different logos on the same piece of artwork, inevitably somebody's like, oh, I'm from there. There's my favorite course. There's my favorite player. Here's where I'm from. Here's where I'm going. Here's where I haven't played. It just kept the conversation going. So I think that's what we kind of learned about this artwork is like, it just creates a conversation for people. It allows you to talk about a sport that you're passionate about, and what's your connection with the game, and how did you get into it? The things that we're talking about today.
You talked about moments, and that's another one you could put on there. Like, I'm from there. I had this moment there, or I talk about Torrey and the moments that I had there when I got to play it. It was just, again, when you talk about all those things, it's really remarkable.
I mean, and I think, and I guess like the coolest one to me, and I don't know if you want to say, quote, it's your most popular one, but the Ryder Cup one, to kind of bring the whole conversation full circle, is like so cool, because I think what gets lost a lot of times is who won, where was it again? Can you remind me? What was the score? Like, oh yeah, there. And that one specific art piece that has, or artwork that has the logos, the results, how it's all boxed in right around the Ryder Cup itself. Like, Talk a little bit about that one. Is that your like masterpiece in a sense at this point?
Well, it's definitely the one that's most personal to me because of the relationship that I had with it. But I think I'm a storyteller at heart. I try to remind people like I'm a storyteller first. I draw second. What is the story of the Ryder Cup? And I had done so many presentations on the history of the Ryder Cup to get people specifically in the Minnesota area prepared for like, what is this tournament? Why should you care? Why does it matter? And if you go back to the history of trying to condense this in 90 seconds, but the Ryder Cup was born of Walter Hagen in the late 1910s, early 1920s, taking a quote unquote team of Americans over to try and win the Open Championship. He's like, look, they won ours, we haven't won theirs. Jock Hutchinson won the first Open Championship, I think, in 1920. But it was when the Americans were over there playing in the Open Championship that the Brits were saying, let's just have some little side matches on this. And it was when Samuel Ryder kind of picked up on it. He's like, I'll donate the trophy. And they played one, really at they played one at Wentworth, I think, in 25. And I think they kind of said, like, we should do this again. And the first official was at Worcester in Mass in 1927. But that's what started it. It was just the camaraderie and getting these people together to, wasn't really so competitive as much as camaraderie. We lost the Ryder Cup for 10 years because of the war from 37 to 47. We'll have to our work to, we note World War II in there. And if people know the story about Robert Hudson, who was a farmer in Portland, he was the one who self-funded the Ryder Cup in 47 to bring it back. Some people think it should be named the Hudson Cup because of that. But we take it through the evolution of, as USA versus Great Britain. Where did Europe come into the mix? Where did Tony Jacklin come into the mix in 1981, 83? And how did Europe start to assert themselves as a team through the late 80s? And how it's become the rivalry that it is today. I think a lot of people think the Ryder Cup just started in 91 at Kiowa. I'm like, well, it goes back farther than that. So I try to help people understand, like, how did we get here? And where are we? And where are we going? And, where professional golf is going is unknown. But all I can try to do is help people understand, like, when we talk about players getting paid to play in the Ryder Cup, we have to understand that for almost 100 years now, these people have made it become what it is. People like Jack Nicklaus and Tony Jacklin and Robert Hudson, like, those people should be getting a paycheck long before any player today gets it.
Yeah. I mean, that's so good.
Yeah. You're telling a story of by painting it and by drawing it and doing all the artwork. And like you said, you got World War II stuff on there. On the flip side, that Tom's doing his stuff with his art is done by words and yours is done, but you're both telling a story in both kind of ways. It's really interesting. Do you and Tom work together a lot, or is there just like as a relationship? Are you guys like friends that's blossomed from that, or?
Yeah, we've been friends. Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. Going back to his Ireland book, there was a late author named Jim Finnegan in Philly that I'd always ask Jim, like, hey, Jim, any books I got to read? And he's like, yes, you have this book about a man who walked around Ireland, played every course around the coast of Ireland. And to find out that Tom lived in Philly, I immediately reached out to him. We've been friends ever since. So that was all just an accident, Ryan, with just me giving him the U.S. Open artwork and him taking it around. The part of this journey that I think your listeners would be interested to know is, if I try to summarize, what the last 2 years of my life would look like, I think by the summer of 21, I recognized that just all the hours and the things that I put into the job, the sacrifice of hosting majors and the hours that go into the job, I was missing watching my kids grow up. And I felt like I had to make a choice between the two. The two couldn't coexist. I kind of got to a place of peace of I've gotten to do so much in golf that I never thought I would have a chance to do. The last frontier for me is to be a husband and father. I need to be there while I have my girls and while I can watch them grow up. So we left Hazeltine without really a plan of what we're going to do. It's just, we'll figure it out. And the artwork wasn't really even the top 50 of the conversation. There was a gentleman named Shane Ryan who writes for a number of different publications, Golf Digest being one of them. And I had sent Shane the Ryder Cup piece, and he's like, what is this? And when I explained it to him, he put out a story on us Christmas Eve of 21. And that was maybe a push in the direction that we're in now. I kind of went back to the USGA. I mean, look, I grew up in Basking Ridge in the shadow of Far Hills, and I know all these people. And I went back and I said, look, we've joked about this before, but let's have a serious conversation. What does this look like if I were to ever pursue this? And with the logo piece specifically, they said, look, we love it. We were hoping you would ever come back to this, but when it comes to the club logos, we don't own those. You're going to have to go to every club and get permission to use the logo on the artwork. And we didn't understand what that journey was going to be like, or is it even possible? And Ryan, you kind of hinted at earlier in the call, like I've had all these relationships, in the position that I was in at Hazeltine with all these other club pros that it had a chance because I could get the call back. But there were two roads. There was we don't ask for permission. We open up a online shop and we sell as many of these as we can until somebody says stop. But look, how is the game of golf played? I mean, we play the game without a referee around. We call the penalties on ourselves. It's a game of honor. Like that was never in play for us. So we did it the hard way. And, we started in July of 2022 with the U.S. Open piece, 51 yeses. We have to get 51, not 48, not 45. We have to get them all. And if somebody says no, pack it up and go home. It took us 8 months. And I think when I look at that journey, the unknown every day of like, is this going to fall apart tomorrow? The reason it succeeded is because of people helping people. I think the list of people that got involved by the end was somewhere between 300 to 400 people. And people part of my life in different ways that believed in what we were doing. So when I look at the artwork now, and I hope, if people ever put it in their home or their office, they're not just reminded of the history of the game, which is great. But they see a community of people. And that's why I'm on these calls is like, we're all in this together. We all love the same game. We're coming at it from different places. But the minute that I stop talking to people like you, or, I miss that part, being a pro is these interactions and understanding, what is it that makes you love the game? What's your story? And if the artwork starts these conversations, then I think that's the real beauty that's come of it.
It's so spot on with what Mike and I say all the time, that it's amazing how, Mike and I don't have we didn't go to journalism school or anything like that. We kind of start this as two guys that just like golf. And it's amazing how open people have been. And it's a testament to the golf community. Like you said, everyone's just been like open to help or someone, hey, I know this guy, I can help you with this. Just like with you got 300 people, 51 logos. You're looking at 4 or 5 people a logo. The math just adds up that you're going to have people helping people for those. So it's an incredible community, the golf community. And Mike and I say it all the time.
Yeah, because we can attest to it. I mean, think about it. We've been fortunate in really of 18 months of being in this operation to get connected with like Dottie Pepper, to connect us with Dan Hicks, who then got us Jim Nance, to then get Stuart Hagestad, to sit down in person with Michelle Wee West. Like, it's crazy that two guys like us that stumbled upon this journey 18 months ago with legit no idea what to do, but then just to meet people, to network with people and let them know, like, listen, we're here just to showcase the good that golfing is here in the Garden State. And if there's a way to expand that, like, let's do it. And to your point, it just speaks volumes that it is amazing. But I do want to also, before, and I don't know what your time is and if you got to get going, but I do want to talk about Archive 22. Because I kind of have seen, as we've discussed your journey from like the beginning here in New Jersey to now to today, like I've scrolled through Archive 22 and again, like, I guess I'm flabbergasted that you got to go to every single damn golf club to get their approval to put on there, because that didn't even cross my mind. But they're all there. And when you see like the PGA Championship, you see the US Open, you see the Ryder Cup, like the fact that you still probably to this day have to call them for that is mind boggling. And I love the concept of Archive 22 looking to kind of like expand now to not only just be like yours, but in a sense, have a network of people, a community that all have the same process, the same mindset, and the same goal really at the end of the day. Tell me a little bit about Archive 22.
Yeah, I think I remember when you were trying to figure out what the next step is after Hazeltine. And, my wife's like, look, I know we're making the right decision here, but help me understand what's next, because I'm kind of freaking out about where the next paycheck's going to come from. So am
100%
I.
get that.
Right? I get it. And as we're weighing things out, and what is something that would allow me to stay home with my family and be a bigger role in my kid's life, it seemed like all signals kept coming back to the artwork. And I remember kind of pitching it to her, and I was like, I think this is it. I remember she kind of was like, and what else? Because this can't all be it. And I'll say this, like, I want to give her a lot of credit. If people watch, there's a reel I made on my Instagram on Small Business Saturday, which now I think about completely different than I had before. I talk about perspective a lot. The movie Field of Dreams, I've watched for years. It's one of my favorite movies. And I used to think that movie was about a man and his convictions and following his gut, and or it was about the other Terrence Mann and James Earl Jones playing that role is like it's about a dream that he never told anyone about, or it was about Moonlight Graham coming so close to a dream, then getting it back, and then having to surrender it all again. And what I missed in that movie was like that was all made possible because the wife supported it, right? So I think our journey that we've been on, one, my wife saved money for us for all the years I was at Hazeltine that allowed us to go basically a year without income to get to a place where we could start launching some of these. I said, look, if we can just get one of these pieces across the finish line, then this, and then this, and then this. And then, I had a business plan to go into other leagues, which we're starting to do now with the NHL. But I said, I want to lead with the artwork. And then I want to storytell, and I'm starting to write. I want to start getting in front of audiences and sharing my perspective on, and not just history and why it matters, but on life. I think I have a message for people. It's why I left my job. And I think what I've kind of stumbled upon here is in leaving Hazeltine, I had so many people reach out to me and be like, why'd you leave? And when I explain it, men specifically, have kind of said, look, I'm having the same struggle of, what am I chasing? Is it the accomplishments or the accolades or the money or the title? And am I going to miss what's most important? And I keep going back to, again, that video that I watched from Ryder Cup Europe in 2018 saying like, don't leave with any regrets. And I'm not, and I don't want others to as well. So Archive 22, we're going to talk about what we learned from history, but we want to have perspective. And I'm just trying to share that perspective, whether it's through social media, coming on podcasts like yours. Again, I'm going to start to write, but I want to encourage other people. I did it for so long through golf and helping people play better golf. But at the end of the day, I was just more of a friend to everyone. And I still want to wear that hat. It just looks a little different now. That's all.
Yeah. Listen, I know the behind the scenes with the wife and I got two little girls myself that are 12 and 9 and the sacrifices they make. Like, listen, I say to Ryan all the time, part of this job doing this is like you're playing Tetris with your life, and prioritizing things sometimes is very hard, and time in 24 hours, finding the time to do things, the important things, truly do matter. But I probably could keep talking to you forever, but I do, before we end, I know that we've recently had Dave Reasoner on the show, and I know you got a great story about Dave and the PGA show. And I'd be remiss if I didn't have you share that story to this audience here in New Jersey that, again, when they listened to that episode with Dave, it was like one of the most DM'd received shows we had gotten, because he's like a mystery to some people, and getting a hold of Dave was not easy. But when I finally did and we got him on, it was like, all right, let's talk. So let's spill the beans a little bit here.
Well, to preface, I think what people got from, if they listen to that show or they're familiar with Dave at all, is he has a great reputation as a golf professional. And the preface for this story is, he's able to acquire a lot of talent around him because he's helped so many people go on to further success. So, like Bob Ford, who I worked for, you knew if you were just going to get close to working with Bob, you were going to have a chance to succeed. And Dave has made that reputation for himself. I mean, he became a golf professional, 24, 25, right? So this was at the PGA show, I want to say 5, 6, 7 years ago, which is actually going on this week today. I'm not there this year, but we were at the Peabody Hotel, which is right across from the convention center, and they had built this new bar and become the kind of the hangout for golf professionals at the end of the day. And I think I was getting ready to leave, and Dave was talking with the staff. They had interviewed a bunch of interns. All the PGA universities bring their interns down, and all these kids are, it's like rush week. They're trying to figure out where they're going to spend the summer. So Dave, all right, guys, who are we going to hire? And they said, this guy. And I said, get him on the phone. And Dave gets this young man on the phone. He goes, hey, so-and-so, this is Dave Reasoner from Ridgewood. You want to come work for me this summer? Well, where are you? Okay. He goes, I'm going to give you 15 minutes to get to the Peabody bar, right? 15 minutes and welcome to Ridgewood. Ready, set, go. Hangs up the phone and he's like, start the timer. And I was getting ready to go back up to my room, and I was like, I kind of need to stick around to see if this kid come up. So we get another drink, and some time's gone by, and I think 20 minutes have gone by, and I was kind of staying close to Dave, and this kid comes running in a suit, and he said, Mr. Reasoner, it's I'm the guy. And he goes, sorry, kid, your time's up. You missed it. And he goes, no, I ran through 5 red lights. I illegally parked my car outside. And and Dave goes, you really want to work at Ridgewood, don't you? He goes, you have no idea. They, along with this new bar, I think they just built this new outdoor pool, and it's got this big water slide going down into it. Dave kind of looks outside. He goes, down that water slide and welcome to Ridgewood. The kid's giving this phone to people. He's like, I'll do it. And the whole bar now has started to push outside to the terrace. In the dark, the kid goes out, full suit, down the slide, swims out. Dave kind of raises his hand like a champion. He's like, what's your name again? Yeah. He's like, everyone, it's Evan, welcome to Ridgewood. And, it has a little bit of that old school feel to it. Like you're rushing a frat. I think what Dave has done so well is he's very serious about his business, but he has a lot of fun doing it. And his staff would run through a wall for him. And it's because of moments like that, and the kid's got a story, same as me and same as Dave just dropping off his resume. It's there are these moments that either send you down a path that you wouldn't have otherwise been on. And, but yeah, when you mentioned Dave, that's one of the stories that immediately comes to mind.
That's such a great story. And you're right, to a testament to Dave is passionate about what he does. And he's what's the word you said? Convicted in how he's going to run it, and he's going to run it professionally, but he's going to have fun doing it. And that's exactly it. That has that rush frat kind of twist on it, but it's not in a hazing kind of way. It's more of a having fun with it. And that's the vibe I got when I interviewed Dave, and that's definitely the reputation he has. And that's among Mike and I, yeah. Like you said, I don't work for him, and I'd run through a wall for him. Yeah. So Mike and I have heard dozens of stories about Dave, and that's up there as one of the better ones. That's a good one.
Yeah. But Chandler, listen, I can't thank you enough for giving us some time today. I knew and I know that the audience is going to love these stories, and I'm sure my phone will be jacked up after this comes out. But again, I want to thank you for giving us some of your time today.
No, you're welcome. And keep up the great work you guys do. Look, you give people like me a platform to come on and tell my story. And we're in this awareness building phase, so I have to tell my story a lot. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to do that. But again, we all love the same game, for various different reasons. You guys are great storytellers. Continue to do. And I think the last thing that came across just when I listened to some of your stuff is the gratitude that you guys feel for what the game has given you. And that's what we all share in common. It's we'll never be able to give back to golf to what it's given us. So keep up the great job what you're doing, and I hope our paths will cross when I come back home.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you, Chandler. Take care.
You got it, guys.
Name a better feeling than buying something you can take and wear anywhere. Money spent on quality products is money well spent. Even more so when you can rock that purchase just about anywhere. Why would you spend a fortune on clothes you'll only wear to the golf course when you could buy gear that's just as nice at home, at a holiday party, or work event, yet comfy enough it doubles as loungewear? Obviously, We'd all love to be playing 36 holes every weekend of the year, but just because you have to sneak in a quick 9 before work doesn't mean you need a change of clothes. And as winter closes in, check out their new festive hoodies and beanies to fight off the chill at www.swannies.co and use code TheDrop25 for 25% off. Swannies is your go-to from work to golf and everything in between.